Meet Ayana, 32, a literature teacher in a medium-sized coastal city whose warm brown eyes miss nothing, absolutely nothing. In the past 5 years of her marriage to David, a dedicated 35-year-old civil engineer, Ayana has developed a skill she never wished to possess: the art of deciphering venomous smiles disguised as maternal concern. Every Sunday, like a sacred ritual no one dares question, Ayana and David drive across the city to Margaret's imposing Victorian mansion. The house, with its white columns and wide verandas, stands as a monument to matriarchal control. At 58, Margaret, a former seamstress now managing family rental properties, rules her territory with sharp features and a piercing gaze that can switch between warm and icy in the blink of an eye. Today, as Ayana climbs the polished stone steps, her fingers unconsciously caress her grandmother's bracelet on her wrist. It's a gesture she makes when she needs strength. And lately, she needs strength every Sunday. The solid wooden door opens even before they ring the bell. Margaret appears framed in the doorway, impeccably dressed in a beige linen suit that probably cost more than Ayana's monthly salary. Her smile is perfect. Too perfect. "Darling, what a joy to see you," Margaret sings, extending her arms. But her eyes, her eyes tell a completely different story. They slide over Ayana in a quick critical assessment, cataloging every real or imagined imperfection. Ayana returns the hug, feeling the stiffness in her mother-in-law's shoulders. It's like embracing a marble statue, beautiful on the outside, cold within. "Margaret, always a pleasure," Ayana replies, keeping her tone measured and calm. It's a dance they've performed for 5 years, ever since Ayana joined this family, a year after the wedding, when Margaret's initial mask of warmth began to crack, revealing something far darker beneath. David enters right behind her, kissing his mother's forehead with genuine affection. He doesn't see, or perhaps he doesn't want to see. To him, his mother is the woman who raised him alone after his father's premature death, who sewed clothes until her fingers bled to pay for his studies, who built a small property empire through hard work and sacrifice. And Ayana loves David for his loyalty. But sometimes, that same loyalty feels like a glass wall between them. Transparent, yet impenetrable. The dining table is already set with the precision of a battlefield. Fine porcelain plates, gleaming silver cutlery, crystal glasses that catch the light from the antique chandelier. Margaret always insists on serving Sunday dinner as if they were hosting foreign dignitaries. It's a display of power. A constant reminder of who holds control in this triangular relationship. "Ayana, dear, are you wearing that blouse again?" Margaret comments as everyone sits down, her voice dripping with fake concern. "Don't get me wrong, sweetheart, but a teacher should present herself well. People judge, you know, and you represent our family now." The blow is precise, calculated, wrapped in layers of maternal care, but poisoned at its core. Ayana feels the familiar wave of doubt and anger vying for space in her chest. She bought this navy blue blouse only 3 months ago. It's suitable, professional, beautiful. But under Margaret's critical gaze, it suddenly seems worn, inadequate, inferior. David doesn't even look up from his phone. He didn't hear, or pretended not to hear.
We can discuss this now.
"I appreciate the concern, Margaret," Ayana responds, her voice firm despite the internal turmoil. "This blouse is appropriate for my work. My students don't care about expensive brands. They care if I show up and teach." Margaret's smile flickers for a split second. It's so brief that anyone blinking would miss it. But Ayana saw. She always sees. Of course," Margaret retreats smoothly, fussing with the linen napkins, as if the conversation were too trivial to merit attention. "I just want the best for you. After all, you're like a daughter to me." A lie. The word reverberates in Ayana's mind like a church bell. A lie. A lie. A lie. But she smiles. She always smiles. Because maintaining family harmony is what women like Ayana are taught to do. Swallow the poison and call it medicine. Dinner proceeds through elaborate dishes. Baked salmon fillets, roasted potatoes with rosemary, fresh garden salad, all prepared with the precision of someone who knows that food can also be a weapon. Margaret serves generous portions on David's plate while giving Ayana a visibly smaller amount. "You're so thin, Ayana. You need to eat more," Margaret says, even as she limits the food on her plate. David needs a healthy wife. Strong. Capable. Capable. The word hangs in the air like smoke. Capable of what exactly? Ayana knows the unspoken answer. Capable of bearing grandchildren. That's the real point of contention. The true battlefield Margaret has chosen. Ayana and David decided to wait before having children. Ayana wants to solidify her career, perhaps pursue a master's degree. David supports this decision. But for Margaret, this choice is a personal affront, a denial of her right to be a grandmother, to extend her influence through another generation. "We're doing just fine, thank you," Ayana says calmly. "When the time's right, you'll be the first to know." Margaret makes a soft sound of disapproval, but she doesn't push further. Not in front of David. She's too clever for that. Her battles are fought in whispers, in glances, in subtle comments that can be dismissed as misunderstandings if anyone dare challenge them. The conversation drifts to safer subjects. David's work, a new construction contract that will keep him traveling for 2 weeks next month. Ayana notices the subtle satisfaction crossing Margaret's face upon hearing this. 2 weeks without Ayana present at Sunday dinners. 2 weeks of having her son all to herself. After dinner, while David goes to the bathroom, Margaret gets up to make tea. Ayana offers to help, but is dismissed with an elegant wave of her hand. "Sit down. Rest. You've worked all week. Let me take care of this." That's when it happens. The moment Ayana will revisit 1,000 times in the days to come. She is sitting at the table, distractedly flipping through a decor magazine that Margaret keeps strategically scattered around the house magazines showing homes Ayana will never be able to afford, lives she will never be able to reach. Margaret's phone vibrates on the table next to Ayana. The screen lights up with a message. Ayana doesn't intend to read it. She respects privacy, but the contact name jumps out at her before she can look away. Aunt Helen. And the message, visible on the lock screen, is there. Brief. Brutal. Impossible to ignore. "Did you get the powder? Remember, just a pinch in the tea. She won't even notice." Ayana's heart stops, literally stops for a whole beat before restarting in a frantic march. Her hands tremble as she pretends to keep turning the magazine pages. Her eyes don't move. They are fixed on the sentence that has just turned her world upside down. Powder. Tea. She won't even notice. Who else could it be but Ayana? Her mind races through possibilities, each more terrible than the last. Poison. Something to make her sick. To make her seem unstable. So David questions her judgment, her sanity, or something worse. Something to affect her ability to have children in the future. Is Margaret's obsession with grandchildren so intense that she would do this? Would she go that far? The phone goes dark, taking the damning evidence with it. But the words are etched into Ayana's mind, as if carved in stone. Margaret returns from the kitchen carrying a silver tray with a porcelain teapot and 3 delicate cups. Her face is perfectly composed, serene, maternal. She is a consummate actress. How many other performances has Ayana witnessed without realizing the falsehood behind them? "Chamomile tea," Margaret announces warmly. "Your specialty, Ayana. I made it especially for you, to help you relax. You seem so tense lately." Ayana watches, as if watching a movie in slow motion, while Margaret arranges the cups. She pours tea into 2 cups, one for Ayana and one for herself. David doesn't like herbal tea. He prefers coffee. This is it. This is the moment. Ayana watches Margaret's hands, looking for any suspicious movement, any furtive gesture. And then she sees it. Margaret positions her body so that David, who has just returned and is sitting in the adjacent room, cannot see her hands. She reaches for her purse, a small leather bag she always keeps close. Her fingers disappear inside it for just a second. Just a second. But Ayana sees. She sees everything. When Margaret turns back to the table, there is something in her hand, something too small to identify from a distance. Her fingers hover over the cup meant for Ayana, the cup with delicate flowers painted on the sides, the cup Margaret always insists is her favorite. Time seems to freeze. Ayana can hear her own blood roaring in her ears. She can feel every muscle in her body tensing, preparing to act, to scream, to confront. But she doesn't move, because a part of her, the part David would call paranoid, the part Margaret would spend 5 years trying to convince, was too sensitive. Imagining things, that part needs certainty. It needs proof. Margaret moves her hand, and Ayanna can't see exactly what happens next. Her view is blocked by her mother-in-law's body, positioned with precision to conceal the action. When Margaret steps away, the 2 cups of tea are on the tray, steaming and innocent. She lifts the tray with a warm smile and starts crossing the room toward Ayanna. "Here you are, my dear. Drink it while it's hot. It will make you feel so much better." Ayanna's eyes fall to the cup Margaret extends to her. She notices her mother-in-law's fingers are perfectly steady. No tremor, no hesitation, no visible guilt. Either Margaret is completely innocent, and Ayanna is losing her mind, seeing conspiracies where none exist. Or Margaret is one of the most dangerous women Ayanna has ever met, capable of poisoning her daughter-in-law with the same ease she serves tea. Ayanna reaches out to take the cup. Her fingers brush Margaret's, and she looks into her mother-in-law's eyes, searching for any sign of hesitation, of guilt, of humanity. But Margaret's eyes are void of everything except patient expectation. She is waiting for Ayanna to drink. In the corner of Ayanna's vision, Margaret's purse sits open on the edge of the kitchen counter, where she left it when picking up the tea tray. The purse her fingers reached for just moments ago. The purse that might hold the answer to the question tearing Ayanna's world apart. Margaret smiles. That perfect, warm, maternal smile. And Ayanna realizes with crystal clarity, she is completely alone. In this grand colonial house, surrounded by family portraits celebrating Margaret's centrality, sitting beside the husband she loves but who cannot see the war being waged right under his nose, Ayanna is absolutely, terribly alone. The cup of tea burns in her hands. Waiting, just as Margaret is waiting, with that venomous smile disguised as maternal love. And Margaret's purse remains open on the counter, her secret still hidden, but perhaps, just perhaps, within reach of someone brave enough to seek the truth. The cup of tea burns in Ayanna's hands. Steam rises in lazy spirals, carrying the scent of chamomile and something else. Something she can't identify. Something that makes her stomach turn. Margaret is sitting next to her on the burgundy velvet sofa. That same sofa where dozens of Sunday dinners ended with coffee and polite conversation. The maternal smile is still plastered on her face, but the eyes. Margaret's eyes are fixed on the cup in Ayanna's hands with an intensity that doesn't match the casual chat about the weather. David is in the kitchen, washing the dishes. Ayanna can hear the sound of running water, the clinking of plates. He's humming some song that played on the car radio, completely oblivious to the silent war being waged 10 feet away. Margaret's purse is still on the kitchen counter, open. Ayanna saw her fingers dip inside while preparing the tea, saw the quick, furtive movement, the gesture of someone who doesn't want to be seen. And now it's here. This cup. This tea that should be just tea. Ayanna's heart beats so hard she's sure Margaret can hear it. But she keeps her face serene, neutral. Years of teaching rebellious teenagers have taught her to hide what she feels, to wear a mask when necessary. She lifts the cup to her lips, feels the heat against her mouth. And in that moment, between the gesture and the intention, a single word explodes in her mind like lightning. No, don't drink. Don't give her that victory. But what to do? Refusing would be confirming suspicions. It would show Margaret that Ayanna knows. And if she knows that Ayanna knows, what happens then? What will be the next move? Ayanna's mind races in 1,000 different directions, processing possibilities with the speed of an overheated computer. And then, like a lighthouse cutting through the fog, an idea forms. Clear, strategic, dangerous. If Margaret thinks she can drug her, then let her think she succeeded. If she wants Ayanna unconscious, then Ayanna will give her exactly that. And then finally, after 5 years of masks and half-truths and unspoken tensions, Ayanna will discover who Margaret really is when she thinks no one is looking. The decision takes less than 2 seconds. But in those 2 seconds, Ayanna crosses an abyss, On the other side of that abyss is a version of herself she doesn't know yet. A version that doesn't seek harmony at any cost. A version that protects herself first. She raises the cup to her lips again. This time, she tilts it slightly, allowing the liquid to touch her mouth. But she doesn't swallow. She keeps the tea between her closed lips, letting the heat burn slightly while faking a sip. Then, with a subtle movement she learned watching magicians in YouTube videos with her students, she lowers the cup and uses the tip of her tongue to push the liquid back. Nothing was ingested. But to Margaret, who watches every move with hawk eyes, it looked perfect. Ayana takes another fake sip, and another. She watches the liquid level in the cup dropping millimeter by millimeter, as she discreetly pours small amounts into the ornamental plant beside the sofa every time Margaret looks away. 7 minutes later, the cup is empty. Margaret smiles. That wolfish smile disguised as a grandmother. And now comes the hardest part. The performance that needs to be flawless. Ayana feels a genuine pang of fear. What if she can't fake it convincingly? What if Margaret sees through the act? What if the whole plan falls apart because Ayana can't act well enough? But then she remembers something her grandmother used to say. The grandmother who raised 6 children alone after her husband left. The grandmother who faced racist bosses and cruel neighbors and still held her head high. A strong woman isn't one who is never afraid. It's one who acts despite the fear. Ayana blinks slowly, lets her eyelids grow a little heavier, places the empty cup on the saucer with a movement that seems slightly uncoordinated. Margaret leans forward, imperceptibly, watching. Ayana shakes her head, as if trying to clear a dizziness, brings her hand to her forehead. Her voice comes out slurred, confused. "Margaret, I'm feeling strange." The words are perfect. Not too dramatic, just enough to seem real. Margaret approaches, placing a hand on Ayana's shoulder. The hand feels icy through the cotton blouse. Or maybe it's just the terror making everything seem colder. "What's wrong, my dear? You look pale." Margaret's voice drips with maternal concern. And it's so convincing that for a moment, just a fleeting moment, Ayana almost doubts what she saw, almost believes she imagined it all. But then she sees it, in Margaret's eyes, beneath the mask of concern. A spark, small but unmistakable. Triumph. Margaret is triumphant. And Ayana knows, with a certainty that cuts to the bone, that she didn't imagine anything, that the danger is real. That this woman, this mother-in-law who was supposed to love her like a daughter, just tried to drug her. Anger burns in Ayana's throat, but she swallows it, buries it deep. Because anger serves no purpose now. Now, she needs control. David. David. Ayana calls out for her husband, and her voice sounds weak, frightened. She isn't faking the fear. The fear is real. She's just directing it to the right place. David appears from the kitchen, drying his hands on a dish towel. His face changes instantly when he sees Ayana, pale and trembling. "Honey, what happened?" He runs to her, and Ayana takes advantage of the movement, letting herself fall lightly against him. David catches her, and she feels his solid warmth, the smell of laundry detergent and aftershave. For a second, she wants to tell him everything, wants to scream the truth. But she can't. Not yet. Because if she tells him now, David will never believe it. He'll look at his mother, at that woman who raised him alone, who sacrificed so much for him, and say that Ayana is paranoid, stressed, imagining things. She needs proof, needs him to see it with his own eyes. "I feel so dizzy. Everything is spinning." Ayana closes her eyes and lets her body go limp in David's arms. He lifts her with ease, carrying her to the large sofa in the living room, the brown leather one that overlooks the indoor garden. He lays her down with care, as if she were made of porcelain, and Margaret follows them, every step measured, calculated. "I'll get a glass of water." Her pressure must have dropped. Margaret's voice is pure solicitude. But Ayana, even with her eyes closed, can feel the poisonous smile hidden behind the words. David runs to the kitchen. Ayana hears the sound of the tap, the clinking of a glass. And then, for 3 endless seconds, she is left alone with Margaret. Alone, and supposedly unconscious. Ayanna keeps her eyes closed, breathing slow and deep. Every muscle in her body needs to be relaxed. Any tension, any twitch, and the ruse will be revealed. She feels Margaret's presence getting closer, feels her shadow blocking the light from the chandelier, feels the heat of another human body hovering over hers. And then, Margaret does something that freezes the blood in Ayanna's veins. She laughs, not loud, not a guffaw. It's a low chuckle, almost inaudible. A laugh of pure satisfaction, as if she had just won a game. Ayanna wants to open her eyes, wants to jump up and confront her, wants to scream. But if she does that, she loses everything. Loses the only advantage she has. So she remains motionless, dead to the world. While Margaret leans closer, so close that Ayanna can feel her breath, slightly bitter, against her face. Finally, the word is whispered so softly that Ayanna almost doesn't hear it, but she hears it, and the weight of that single word crushes any residual doubt. Finally, as if Margaret had been waiting for this for a long time, as if this moment were planned, desired. Footsteps return from the kitchen. David is coming back. Margaret moves away quickly, and when David enters the room, she is sitting in the armchair next to the sofa, hands folded in her lap, an expression of maternal concern perfectly arranged on her face. Has she not woken up yet? David's voice is tense, worried. He really loves Ayanna. She knows that. She feels it in the way he touches her face, checking her temperature, in the way he adjusts the cushion under her head. She is breathing normally, so maybe it's just exhaustion. She's been working so hard, poor thing. Margaret dismisses the situation with a wave of her hand, as if fainting were something perfectly normal, perfectly harmless. And Ayanna realizes the evil genius of it. Because if something really happens to her, if she really gets sick or worse, Margaret has already planted the seed. She's already created the narrative. Ayanna was tired. Ayanna was stressed. It was just an unfortunate accident. Do you think I should call the hospital? David is genuinely worried now, and Ayanna feels a pang of guilt for making him suffer like this. But she pushes the guilt away. This isn't her fault. None of this is her fault. Wait a few more minutes. If she doesn't wake up, we'll call. Margaret is calm, controlled, like someone who knows exactly what is happening and how long it will last. Ayanna keeps her breathing steady, keeps her eyes closed, and waits. She can feel David sitting beside her, holding her hand. She can feel his weight sinking into the sofa. And she can feel Margaret watching from afar, waiting. But waiting for what? What does she want? What comes next? The minutes drag on like hours. The chandelier above her head emits a low hum. Some bird sings in the garden outside. The wall clock ticks, each second an eternity. And then David stands up. I'm going to get my phone upstairs, just to be sure. He goes up the stairs. Ayanna hears his footsteps fading away, climbing to the second floor. And suddenly she is alone with Margaret again. The silence that follows is so dense it feels solid. Ayanna can hear it pressing against her ears, crushing her lungs. She keeps her eyes closed, keeps her breathing slow. But every nerve in her body is screaming. Every survival instinct is yelling for her to open her eyes, to run, to fight. Footsteps approach the sofa. Margaret is moving, coming closer. Ayanna can hear her breathing now. She can feel the air temperature change as Margaret blocks the light. And then, the sound of fabric moving. Something being opened. A purse? The same purse that was in the kitchen? Ayanna desperately wants to peek. Just a slit. Just enough to see what Margaret is doing. But she can't. She can't risk it. So she lies there, vulnerable, exposed, completely at the mercy of a woman who just proved she has no mercy at all. Ayanna's heart beats so loud she's sure Margaret can see it pulsing through her blouse. But she forces every muscle to stay loose, every breath to stay steady. More footsteps upstairs. David is coming back. Immediately, Ayanna hears the sound of something being snapped shut. The purse. Margaret is hiding something. When David comes down the stairs, Margaret is sitting in the armchair again, hands clasped, expression serene. As if nothing had happened. As if she weren't the monster she truly is. David returns to Ayana's side, and she can feel the worry radiating from him in almost palpable waves. Still nothing? Nothing. Margaret's voice is soft, patient, and as Ayana lies there, feigning unconsciousness, a terrible realization settles in her mind. She doesn't know how long she can keep up this charade. She doesn't know what Margaret will do next. She doesn't know if David will believe her when all this is over. But she knows one thing with absolute certainty. She crossed a line, and there is no turning back. Whatever Margaret plans to do while she thinks Ayana is unconscious, Ayana will witness. She will see. She will know. And then, finally, she will have the truth. Not the truth people fake at family gatherings. Not the polite truth of Sunday dinners. The real truth. The ugly truth. The truth that hides beneath maternal smiles and poisoned cups of tea. Ayana remains motionless on the brown leather sofa. Eyes closed, breathing slow, heart beating like a war drum, and waits. Waits to discover exactly who Margaret is when she thinks no one is looking. Waits to see just how far a mother-in-law is capable of going. Above her, the chandelier keeps humming. The clock keeps marking the seconds. The bird in the garden keeps singing. And Margaret's footsteps approach again, closer, closer, until Ayana can feel her shadow falling over her face like a shroud. And Margaret's voice, low, almost inaudible, whispers something Ayana can't quite distinguish. But one word stands out, a single word that makes Ayana's blood run cold. Finally, finally. The word floats in the air like poisonous smoke, penetrating Ayana's ears, who remains motionless on the sofa. Every muscle in her body is taut like a guitar string about to snap. But she doesn't move. Not a tremor. Not a sigh. Because now, more than ever, she needs to know. Margaret gets even closer. Ayana can smell her perfume, that jasmine scent she always wore, which Ayana used to associate with warm hugs in the first months of marriage. Now, that smell is just another layer of falsehood. Just another perfumed mask over the rotten truth underneath. Margaret's cold fingers touch Ayana's wrist, checking, counting the heartbeats that Ayana struggles to keep steady, even when every fiber of her being screams for her to jump off that sofa and confront the woman who just poisoned her drink. 1, 2, 3. Margaret counts silently, fingers pressing on the artery in Ayana's wrist. Then she pulls away. Ayana hears her footsteps retreating, the subtle creak of the wooden floorboards beneath her feet. The shadow covering Ayana's face dissipates as Margaret moves toward the window. That's when Ayana hears David's voice coming from the hallway. "Mom, what happened? I heard a noise." His voice is worried, but there is also that characteristic hesitation. That tone Ayana has learned to recognize over 5 years of marriage. It's the tone David uses when he doesn't really want to know the truth. When he prefers the edited version, the version that won't force him to choose between his mother and his wife. Margaret responds with that voice she always uses in her son's presence. Soft, maternal, worried. "Oh, my son. Ayana isn't feeling well. I think she fainted. I just checked her pulse. It's weak, but stable." David enters the room. Ayana can hear his footsteps approaching quickly, almost running. She feels when he kneels beside the sofa, feels the warmth of his hand touching her face. "Ayana? Ayana, can you hear me?" His voice is heavy with genuine concern, and that's the part that hurts the most. Because David loves her, she knows that. But this love has always been conditional. It has always had a third element. There was always Margaret in the middle, like a vigilant ghost, ensuring that David's love never completely belonged to Ayana. "My God, I need to call an ambulance," he says, already reaching for the phone in his pocket. No. Margaret intervenes quickly, placing her hand on her son's shoulder. "No need to overreact, my love. She just fainted. Probably the heat, or maybe she skipped lunch again. You know how she is, always so worried about her figure." Ayana feels rage boiling inside her. How she is? Margaret is planting seeds again. Little comments, seemingly innocent, that pile up in David's mind like sediment at the bottom of a river. You know how she is. Always so worried about her figure. As if Ayanna were vain. As if Ayanna were weak. As if Ayanna were the problem. But David, always so willing to believe the easiest version, accepts it. Do you really think she's okay? Shouldn't I take her to the hospital? I'm sure, my son. Let her rest here a bit. I'll keep an eye on her. Didn't you have to go solve that issue with the project? The site engineer was waiting for you, wasn't he? Did he? Ayanna doesn't remember David mentioning anything about that, but it's typical of Margaret. She always knows her son's schedule, always knows where he should be, always knows how to push him away when it's convenient. Ah, that's true. David hesitates. But Ayanna. She'll be fine with me, Margaret completes, her voice dripping like honey. I'll take care of her, my son. Don't worry. Go handle your business. When you come back, she'll already be awake and fine. Ayanna feels David's lips touching her forehead. A soft kiss, protective, and completely useless because he is walking away. He is leaving her here, unconscious, vulnerable, alone with the woman who just drugged her. Okay, David gives in, as he always gives in. But anything happens, anything at all, you call me, right? Of course, my love. Go on, don't worry. David's footsteps fade away. The front door opens, closes, the sound of his car starting in the parking lot outside, the engine purring, and then, the silence that follows when he leaves is so thick Ayanna can almost touch it. She is alone with Margaret. For a long moment, nothing happens. Ayanna keeps her eyes closed, breathing slow and shallow, every sense heightened to detect any movement. The clock on the wall keeps ticking away the seconds. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Every sound amplified in the silence. And then, Margaret sighs. It's a deep sigh of relief, as if she had taken off a heavy mask she had been wearing for hours. Ayanna hears the sound of her phone being unlocked, the soft tap of fingers on the screen, the dial tone. 1 ring, 2 rings, 3. Hello? The voice answering is female, older. Ayanna recognizes it immediately. Aunt Helen, Margaret's sister, who lives in Florida and visits occasionally for holidays. Helen, hun, it's me. Margaret, how are you, sis? I'm good. I'm great, actually. There's something in Margaret's tone now that makes Ayanna's stomach turn. It's a tone of satisfaction, of victory. I did it, Helen. I finally did it. Did what? Margaret laughs. It's a low laugh, almost intimate. A laugh Ayanna has never heard before. Remember what I told you? About my plan to make Ayanna show who she really is? Ayanna's heart races. Plan? What plan? Oh, Margaret, you didn't do anything crazy, did you? Depends on what you call crazy, Margaret replies, and Ayanna can hear the smile in her voice. I put a sedative in her drink. Nothing major, just enough to knock her out for a few hours. Margaret! Come on, it's harmless. I just need David to see that she's weak, that she falls apart under the slightest pressure, that she's not cut out for this family. Ayanna feels tears pricking behind her closed eyelids, but she holds them back. She can't cry now. She can't reveal that she's hearing everything. Helen sighs on the other end of the line. You're still doing this? It's been 5 years, Margaret. And you think I'd just give up? Margaret's voice hardens. That woman stole my son from me, Helen. Before her, David told me everything. We did everything together. Every Sunday, every holiday. And now? Now he barely calls. It's all Ayanna, Ayanna, Ayanna. But he got married, Margaret. That's what husbands do. They prioritize their wives. Not when the wife doesn't deserve it. Margaret cuts in, her voice sharp as a blade. You didn't see what I've seen, Helen. For 5 years, I've planted doubts in this family's mind. I told Aunt Rita that Ayanna was rude to her at Christmas. I told his cousin she complained about the noise from the kids. Every little seed I planted bore fruit. Ayanna feels like she's falling, as if the floor had been ripped out from under her. The gossip, the family tensions, the strange looks she received at family gatherings. Those passive-aggressive comments that seemed to spring from nowhere. None of it was accidental. None of it was a misunderstanding. It was all Margaret. And did it work? Helena asks, her voice heavy with disapproval, but also curiosity. It worked partially. The family is already suspicious. But David is stubborn. He keeps defending her, keeps saying I'm exaggerating, that I'm seeing problems where there are none. Margaret pauses. Ayanna hears the sound of footsteps again. She is pacing the room. But now, with her passed out here, fragile, dependent, I'll be able to show him. I'll be able to whisper in his ear that maybe she isn't stable, that maybe she needs help, that maybe the marriage is weighing too heavily on her. And when he's doubting, when he's questioning, I'll be there to support him, to comfort him, to remind him that no matter what happens, he always has his mother. You're terrible, Beatrice, Helena says, but there's a hint of reluctant admiration in her voice. I am a mother, Margaret corrects, and a mother does what needs to be done to protect her son. Protect? Or control? There is silence on the other end of the line. Then Margaret speaks again, her voice lower now, more vulnerable. I raised that boy alone after his father died, Helena. You remember how hard it was. I worked as a seamstress for 20 years to give him a good education, to pay for college, to mold him into the man he is today. And then comes some little literature teacher, with her books and her pretty ideas, and steals everything from me. Steals my son, my purpose, my entire life. Ayanna feels her chest tighten, not out of sympathy, but recognition, because she finally understands. Margaret doesn't hate her because she's evil. Margaret hates her because she is living proof that David has grown up, that David doesn't need her anymore, that Margaret's work, her life's mission, is over. And Ayanna was the one who showed that. But that justifies nothing. It doesn't justify the years of manipulation. It doesn't justify the lies. It doesn't justify the poison in the drink. So, what are you going to do now? Helena asks. Now I wait for her to wake up. I'll act all worried. I'll suggest that maybe she should see a doctor, maybe a therapist. I'll plant the seed in David's mind that maybe she needs professional help. And little by little, slowly but surely, he'll realize she's not the strong woman he thought, that she is fragile, that she is a burden. A burden. The word echoes in Ayanna's mind like a funeral bell. Because that was exactly what Margaret had told her, years ago, during the second Christmas they spent together. Ayanna was helping in the kitchen, trying to fit in, trying to prove she deserved to be there. And Margaret had turned to her, smiling, and whispered softly, where only Ayanna could hear. Don't worry about impressing anyone, dear. In the end, the family will always see you as a burden. But that's okay. We endure it. It's what we do for the love of David. At the time, Ayanna had thought it was just Margaret's insecurity speaking. A slightly overprotective mother-in-law still adjusting to the new family dynamic. She had swallowed the comment. She had smiled. She had kept washing the dishes. But it wasn't insecurity. It was strategy. Beatrice, are you sure about this? Helena asks now. What if David finds out what you did? He won't find out. Margaret sounds confident. Because in the end, he always believes me. He always has. I'm his mother. I've known him since he was a baby in my arms. Her? She's just the woman he chose. And choices can be undone, Helena. Choices can be corrected. The silence that follows is deafening. Ayanna feels something shifting inside her. It's not anger. It's no longer shock. It's something colder, more solid. It is the crystal clear understanding that she can no longer pretend. She can no longer try to appease. She can no longer try to win the approval of a woman who decided to destroy her from day one. It is the realization that, to survive, she will need to fight. I hope you know what you're doing, Helen finally says, but her voice sounds weary. Just be careful. Don't do something you can't take back. Margaret laughs again, that low, dark laugh, satisfied. Trust me, Helen. The only thing I'd regret is doing nothing, and that's never going to happen. They say goodbye. The call ends. And then, once again, silence. Ayanna hears Margaret's footsteps approaching the sofa once more. She feels her shadow falling over her face. She feels her gaze assessing, measuring, planning. And then, Margaret speaks. She's not on the phone. There's no one there to hear. It's just her and the unconscious Ayanna, so the words come out pure. Honest, cruel. "You were never good enough for my son," she whispers. And deep down, you always knew that, didn't you? You always felt like you were taking up space that didn't belong to you. You always tried too hard, pushed too much, because you knew you'd never truly be accepted. But don't worry. Soon, you'll realize it yourself. And when you do, you'll be the one to leave, and I won't even have to get my hands dirty. Her footsteps fade away. Ayanna hears her leaving the room, heading toward the kitchen. She hears the sound of the tap turning on, a cup being placed in the sink, and there, lying on the couch, pretending to be unconscious, Ayanna finally lets a single tear escape from the corner of her closed eye. It rolls down her temple, disappears into her hair. But that is the last tear she will shed for Margaret, because now she knows the truth. And the truth, however painful it may be, is power. Ayanna clenches her fists at her sides, so subtly that no one watching would notice. But she feels it. She feels the strength returning to her hands. She feels the determination solidifying in her bones. Margaret thinks she's winning, but the game is just beginning, and Ayanna has just learned all the rules. She remains motionless on the couch, eyes closed, breathing controlled. Every inhale is measured, every exhale calculated. Margaret is in the kitchen. Ayanna can hear the sound of dishes being washed, water running, the creak of a drawer opening and closing. Sounds of normality, as if nothing had happened, as if she hadn't just drugged her daughter-in-law. Ayanna's pulse accelerates, but she forces her body to stay relaxed. She can't break now. She can't reveal that she's conscious, because if Margaret discovers she faked the faint, that she heard every word of that phone conversation, everything will be lost. She needs proof. Words aren't enough, especially not against a woman who spent 5 years building the image of the perfect mother-in-law, of a loving matriarch, of a concerned mother. Ayanna's mind is working at maximum speed. She thinks of David, of the husband she loves, but who never saw what was happening right under his nose, who always defended his mother, who always said, "She didn't mean that, honey. You misinterpreted it. My mom adores you." If Ayanna gets home today and tells him what happened, without proof, without concrete evidence, what will happen? She knows the answer. Margaret will deny everything. She'll say Ayanna felt sick on her own, that she was worried, that she took care of her. She'll flip the narrative with that skill only experienced manipulators possess. And David? David will believe his mother, like he always has. No, Ayanna needs more than words. And then she feels it, the cold weight against her thigh. Her phone. It's still in her jeans pocket. Margaret didn't think to check. A mistake, a fatal mistake. But reaching for the phone now, lying here on the couch, with Margaret just a few meters away in the kitchen, is risking everything. Ayanna listens. The water is still running. Margaret is busy. Distant enough? Maybe. Maybe not. She moves her right hand, inch by inch, so slowly that the movement itself seems non-existent. Her fingers slide along her body. They reach the pocket, touch the edge of the phone. The water stops. Ayanna freezes, paralyzed completely. Her heart races, but she keeps her breathing slow, deep, simulating unconsciousness. Footsteps. Margaret is coming into the living room. Ayanna closes her fingers around the phone, but doesn't pull it out. Doesn't move. Waits. She feels her mother-in-law's presence standing at the entrance of the room, watching, analyzing, looking for signs of consciousness. How many seconds pass? 10? 20? It feels like an eternity. Then the footsteps recede. Margaret goes back to the kitchen, opens the fridge, takes something out, closes the door. Ayanna breathes, slowly, and pulls the phone from her pocket. Now comes the hardest part. She can't look at the screen, can't open her eyes. She needs to do everything by touch, by years of muscle memory. She slides her finger over the screen, recognizes the position of the power button, presses it, feels the soft vibration indicating the phone has unlocked. Thank God for facial recognition. Her fingers slide across the screen, searching for the voice recorder icon. It's a risk, a huge risk. Because if Margaret comes back now, if she looks at the couch and sees the phone in Ayana's hand, it's all over. But without evidence, it's already over. She touches the icon, feels the confirmation vibration. It's recording. Ayana slides the phone under her body, hides it between her back and the couch. The microphone exposed enough to capture sounds, but invisible to casual eyes. And now she waits. Waits for Margaret to make another call. Say something incriminating. Provide the proof Ayana desperately needs. But minutes pass, and Margaret remains silent. Ayana forces her mind to retreat, to think, to strategize. And suddenly, without warning, a memory emerges. Not from now, not from today, but from 15 years ago. She is 17, sitting in her grandmother's kitchen. Grandma Eleanor is kneading dough to make bread. Her wrinkled, strong hands move with the precision of someone who has made the same gesture 1,000 times. Ayana. Her grandmother's voice is low, warm, but serious. Come here, my granddaughter. I need to teach you something important. Ayana approaches, sits beside her. Grandma Eleanor doesn't look at her immediately, continues kneading. But when she speaks, every word carries weight. There are people in this world who smile at you while sticking a knife in your back. Do you understand what I'm saying? Ayana nods. She's 17. She thinks she understands, but she doesn't understand. Not yet. Those people, Grandma Eleanor continues, are the most dangerous, because you don't see them coming. You trust. You let your guard down, and by the time you realize it, you're already bleeding. She finally looks at Ayana. Dark, piercing eyes. Our grandmothers survived because they were smart. Not just strong. Smart. They knew when to stay quiet, when to observe, when to gather evidence before acting. Do you understand? Ayana hadn't understood. Not back then. She was young, naive. She thought her grandmother was being paranoid. But now she understands perfectly. Grandma Esperanza takes Ayana's hand, slides something cold onto her wrist. A bracelet, simple, interwoven metal, ancient. This bracelet, her grandmother says, belonged to my grandmother, and her grandmother before that. It was passed down from generation to generation, to women who needed to be smarter than they were, strong to survive. She squeezes Ayana's hand. When you feel like you're alone, when you feel like no one believes you, when you feel like the truth is being buried under lies, touch this bracelet, and remember, you come from a lineage of women who survived worse things, and you will survive too. But you need to be smart. You need to gather evidence. You need to protect yourself. The memory dissolves. Ayana is back on Margaret's sofa, motionless, feigning unconsciousness. But she feels the bracelet on her left wrist. That very same bracelet Grandma Esperanza gave her 15 years ago. The one she never took off. Not even after her grandmother died. Grandma Eleanor is with her. In this moment, in this room, in this battle. And Ayana knows exactly what she needs to do. Waiting isn't enough. Recording future conversations isn't enough. She needs something tangible. Something Margaret cannot deny. The substance. The powder Margaret put in the tea. Where is it? Ayana forces her memory. Relives the moments before the staged faint. Margaret tampering with the tea, taking something out of her purse. A small envelope? A packet? Ayana didn't see clearly, but she saw enough. The purse. Margaret's purse. Where is it now? Ayana listens, filters the sounds, identifies Margaret's breathing in the kitchen. She's far away, occupied. She opens her eyes. Just a crack, as little as possible. Scans the room, locates the purse. It's on the coffee table, less than a meter from the sofa. Close. Very close. But reaching it means sitting up. It means visible movement. Risk it? Or wait? Ayana touches the bracelet, feels the cold metal against her skin. Need to be smart. Need to gather evidence. She decides. She moves. Slowly. She sits up on the sofa as if her body were heavy, unconscious, just shifting position during the feint. Reaches out, grabs the purse, pulls it close. Her fingers tremble, not from fear, from pure adrenaline. Opens the purse, slowly, silently. Rummages, wallet, keys, tissues, and then she touches something different. A small envelope, plastic, with something powdery inside. She pulls it out, looks quickly. No label, just a white powder. This is it. This is the proof. But if she takes the envelope, Margaret will notice it's missing. She'll know Ayana was conscious. It will destroy any strategic advantage. Think fast. She grabs her phone. It's still recording audio, but she needs more. Switches to the camera, takes a picture of the envelope, of the powder, of the open purse with Margaret's name visible on the wallet in the background. Evidence, concrete proof. Puts the envelope back, closes the purse, returns to the lying position. Hides the phone again. Her heart is hammering so loud Ayana is sure Margaret can hear it from the kitchen. But no, her mother-in-law remains busy, oblivious. Ayana closes her eyes, forces her body to relax, controls her breathing, returns to the role of the unconscious victim. She did it. She has the recording of Margaret's phone conversation. She has the photo of the envelope with the substance. She has proof that cannot be denied. But now comes the question burning in her mind. What to do with this? Confront Margaret right now? Here? Alone? No. Too risky. Her mother-in-law could still invent something. Could say the powder is medicine. Could turn the tables. She needs David. Needs her husband to see, to hear, to understand. But how to do that without Margaret realizing Ayana has been faking the whole time? Her mind works, calculates, plans. She could wake up now, pretend she just regained consciousness, that she doesn't remember anything. Go home, show the evidence to David in private. But that gives Margaret time to prepare, to create a defense, maybe even plant doubts in her son's head before Ayana has a chance to show what she discovered. No, it needs to be now. It needs to be fast. It needs to be undeniable. But how? And then, as if the universe were answering her question, Ayana hears a sound. The key turning in the front door lock. Footsteps entering. A male voice. Mom? Ayana? I'm home. David. He's back. He shouldn't be here. He should be at work. But he is. Ayana hears Margaret rush out of the kitchen. David! The mother-in-law's voice sounds different now, flustered. What a surprise. I thought you were staying at the office until late. Forgot some documents, David replies. Ayana knows that voice. She can visualize her husband taking off his shoes in the entryway, dropping his backpack. Where is Ayana? Pause. She's resting in the living room. Footsteps approach. Ayana keeps her eyes closed, her body relaxed, but her brain is working in overdrive. This is the opportunity, or the greatest danger. If David walks in and sees her passed out, he'll ask what happened. Margaret will lie. She'll say Ayana felt sick on her own, that she took care of her, that everything is under control. And Ayana can't just wake up and accuse her mother-in-law. Not without context, not without preparing David first. But she has the proof. She has the audio. She has the photo. She needs a moment alone with David, just one moment. Ayana? David's voice is closer now. He has entered the room. She feels his hand touching her face. Genuine concern in his voice. Honey? What happened? Why are you passed out? She felt sick, Margaret rushes to answer. She drank the tea and suddenly started feeling dizzy. I helped her lie down here. I was about to call you. Lie. A complete lie. But said with such conviction that even Ayana, who knows the truth, would almost believe it. Fainted. David sounds alarmed. How long has it been? About 20 minutes, Margaret answers. Ayana feels David kneel beside the sofa. She feels his hand checking her pulse. The familiar touch. Beloved, but now charged with urgency. She needs to go to the hospital, he says. No, Margaret intervenes quickly. She's already getting better. Look, her breathing is normal, must have been low blood pressure. You know how she is, she doesn't eat right. More lies, layers and layers of lies. And David believes it. Of course he believes it. Why wouldn't he? It's his mother. The woman who raised him, whom he trusts blindly. Ayanna feels the anger growing, the frustration, but also something else, determination. She's going to end this, now, today. But it needs to be perfect. It needs to be undeniable. She opens her eyes, slowly, like someone waking up from a real faint. David? Her voice comes out weak, convincing. Ayanna, thank God. He pulls her into a hug. You scared me. What happened? She looks at him, then at Margaret. Her mother-in-law is standing behind David, her eyes fixed on Ayanna, calculating. Cold. There is a warning in that look, a silent threat. Are you going to tell the truth, Ayanna? Are you going to accuse your mother-in-law in front of her son, without visible proof, without witnesses? Are you going to risk your marriage on an accusation I will deny to my death? Margaret's look says all this without uttering a word, and Ayanna looks back, maintains eye contact, because she has proof, because she has the recording, because she has the photo, because Grandma Eleanor taught her to be smart. Ayanna begins, her voice still weak, measured. But before she can continue, Margaret steps forward, places a hand on David's shoulder, her expression changing instantly to maternal concern. My son, she says softly. I think you better take Ayanna home. She needs to rest in a familiar environment. I'll prepare some tea for the road, something to give her energy. David nods, always obedient, always trusting. But Ayanna sees the maneuver. Margaret wants to separate them, wants time to think, to build her defense. It's not going to happen. No, Ayanna says, her voice still weak but firm. No need for tea. She sits up completely, looks at David, then at Margaret. This is the moment, the point of no return. I need to show you something, David, Ayanna says, and reaches for the phone hidden behind her back. Margaret understands immediately. Her eyes widen. The mask begins to crack. Ayanna, she says, her voice taking on a warning tone. But Ayanna doesn't stop, doesn't waver. She looks at her husband, at the man she loves, whom she chose, whom she built a life with, and prays that he sees the truth, prays that he believes. Because if he doesn't believe, if he chooses his mother over his wife, even in the face of proof, Ayanna knows that more than a family relationship will be broken. The whole marriage will be destroyed. David, she repeats, holding the phone. You need to see this, now. Margaret is paralyzed, her face pale, her eyes fixed on the cell phone in Ayanna's hand, and David looks between the two women, between mother and wife, confused, worried, not understanding the tension that cut the air like a blade. The room is in absolute silence. 3 people, 3 intertwined destinies, 3 futures depending on what happens in the next few seconds. Ayanna holds the phone. Margaret holds her breath. And David holds the weight of a choice he doesn't even know he needs to make. Yet. Ayanna lifts the phone. Not slowly, not with hesitation. With the firmness of someone who has already decided that this moment would come. Who has already calculated every word, every second, every consequence. David looks at the device in his wife's hands as if he had never seen a phone before. As if that common object, that lit-up screen, could contain something capable of redefining his entire reality. And it can. Margaret stops breathing. Literally. Her lungs refuse to draw air because she knows, with the visceral certainty of someone who played and lost, that what comes next cannot be undone. David, honey, I need you to see something. Ayanna's voice is calm. Dangerously calm. The kind of calm that comes after the storm, when everything has already been destroyed and there is nothing left to lose. Ayanna. No, begins Margaret. But the word comes out weak, broken, so different from the sharp voice she always used as a weapon. Mom, says David, still not understanding, still trying to mediate. still believing he can fix what is about to shatter. Let her speak. And in that moment, in that fraction of a second where he chooses to listen to his wife over his mother, Margaret feels the ground open up beneath her feet. Ayanna touches the screen. A photo appears. A small, white envelope with powder residue still visible on the inner edge. The image is sharp, undeniable. David leans in, his eyes narrowing. What is this? This, David, is what your mother put in my tea today. The silence that follows isn't the absence of sound. It's the deafening noise of a world crumbling apart, of truths that were ignored, minimized, justified for years, finally taking tangible shape. "This isn't what it looks like," Margaret blurts out, her voice rising 2 octaves, desperate. "No?" Ayanna doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't need to. "Then tell me, Margaret, what does it look like to you?" David looks at his mother, then at his wife, then at the photo again, as if looking enough times could make that envelope disappear. "Mom, what is this?" Margaret opens her mouth, but nothing comes out. Because there is no rehearsed justification for this moment. There is no socially acceptable excuse for poisoning your daughter-in-law. There is no manipulation playbook that covers this specific situation, and Ayanna knows it. "Wait a minute, David. There's more." She taps the screen again. This time, it's not an image, it's an audio file. And when she hits play, the voice coming from the phone's small speaker is unmistakable. It's Margaret's voice. "Helena, it's me. Look, I did it. I put it in her drink. Now we just wait for it to take effect." David freezes. He literally stops mid-motion, his body rigid as stone. The recording continues. No, it won't do permanent damage. Just enough to make her sick, to make her need the hospital. So David finally sees that she's too weak, too sick, too problematic. Every word is a dagger, not to Ayanna. She has already bled from these wounds. She's already cleaned them, already bandaged them. She has already survived this pain. The daggers are going straight for David. He sees his mother, really sees her. Perhaps for the first time in 35 years. And what he sees isn't the woman who raised him with sacrifice, who always knew what was best, who only wanted to protect him. What he sees is a stranger, a woman capable of planning, capable of executing, capable of smiling in her daughter-in-law's face while putting poison in her drink. The recording continues, relentless. If she gets sick enough, David will realize that this woman only brings trouble to his life. He needs someone strong by his side, someone healthy. Not this fragile teacher who keeps inventing crises. Inventing crises. The words echo in the room like a death knell. How many times had Ayanna gotten sick in the last 2 years? How many times did she have unexplained nausea, sudden headaches, malaise that doctors couldn't diagnose? And how many times did David unknowingly repeat his mother's words? "You're stressing yourself out too much. You're too sensitive. You need to be stronger." Ayanna turns off the audio. The silence is different now. It's not just shock. It's understanding. It's the physical nausea of realizing you were an accomplice, however unwitting, to a crime against the person you swore to protect. "Mom," David's voice comes out hoarse, almost unrecognizable. "Tell me this isn't true." It is a plea, not a question. Margaret looks at her son. She sees something in his eyes she has never seen before. Distrust. And something inside her snaps. But not in the way it should. Not towards regret, towards asking for forgiveness, towards humility. It snaps towards fury. Truth? She takes a step forward, chin held high, eyes shining with something fierce and desperate. "You want the truth, David?" "The truth is yes, I did it." Ayanna closes her eyes for a second, not in relief, in recognition. She knew it would come to this, that Margaret wouldn't bow down, wouldn't ask for forgiveness. People like her don't ask for forgiveness. They justify. And I would do it again. David recoils as if he's been punched. "Mom, what are you saying?" "I'm saying I did what had to be done." Margaret is screaming now, arms wide open. her whole body vibrating with indignation. "Because you are my son. My only son. And I won't stand by watching you waste your life with a woman who was never, ever good enough for you." Every word is a bombshell. Good enough? Ayana's voice finally has an edge, small, sharp. Was I never good enough because I am me, Margaret, or because I'm not you? The blow lands squarely. Margaret spins toward her daughter-in-law, eyes wild. "You understand nothing. Nothing. I raised this boy alone. Alone. I worked my fingers to the bone to give him a better life, so he could study, so he could become someone. And then he brings you home. You, with your books and your ideas and your meek ways that made him forget everything I did." Ayana doesn't back down. She doesn't look away. "I never asked him to forget you, Margaret. I only asked him to love his wife, too." "Two?" The word comes out like poison. "There is no two. There is me, who gave my life for him, and there is you, who showed up and stole my son from me." And there it is, the raw truth, finally stripped of all pretense, of all social justification. Margaret isn't worried about her son's well-being. She is terrified of losing him, of becoming irrelevant, of discovering that all those decades of sacrifice didn't give her the right to control his life forever. She is afraid, and fear has made her a monster. But understanding this doesn't absolve what she did. David is standing in the middle of the room, looking at his mother as if she were a complete stranger. "You poisoned my wife," he says, and the words come out slowly, as if his brain is struggling to process the concept. "You planned to make her sick. You—" He chokes up. "Could you have done this before?" Margaret's silence is answer enough, and Ayana sees every memory flash across her husband's face. Every time she got sick inexplicably. Every time his mother suggested it was stress, sensitivity, weakness. Every time he, unknowingly, chose to believe her instead of his wife. "How many times, Mom?" His voice is broken now. "How many times did you do this?" "I was protecting you." "Protecting?" David takes a step back, hands in his hair. "Protecting me from what? From a woman who loves me? From a woman who has never, ever done anything to you but try to respect you, include you, please you. She took you away from me." "No!" The word comes out like thunder. "No, Mom. You are the one taking yourself away from me. Right now. With this." He points at Ayana's phone. "With what you did." Margaret looks at her son, then at her daughter-in-law, then at the floor, as if she could find some way out there, some last card up her sleeve. But there isn't one. The game is over, and she lost. But Margaret isn't the type to lose gracefully. "You'll regret this," she says, looking straight at Ayana. "You'll regret doing this, turning my son against me." Ayana holds her gaze, firm, unwavering. "I didn't turn your son against you, Margaret. You did that all by yourself. I just stopped letting you destroy me in the process." And there, in that simple, devastating sentence, is everything. Ayana isn't seeking revenge. She isn't seeking punishment. She isn't even seeking an apology she knows will never come. She's just setting a boundary. This stops now. Today. Margaret takes a deep breath. Once, twice. As if she were gathering the shards of a dignity she shattered herself. Then she grabs her purse, squares her shoulders, and without saying another word, without looking at her son, without acknowledging her daughter-in-law, she crosses the room toward the door. "Mom." David takes a step toward her, but stops halfway, as if he doesn't know whether to stop her or let her go. Margaret opens the door and leaves. The door closes behind her with a soft click, almost delicate. No slamming, no dramatic crash, just a click. And somehow, that small, final sound is more devastating than any scream could be. David stands there, staring at the closed door. Ayana stands there, staring at her husband. And the silence between them is massive. It's the weight of 5 years of marriage, of countless misunderstandings, of all the times she tried to say something was wrong and he refused to see it, of all the times he chose his mother. Ayana, he finally turns, his face marked by something that could be pain or guilt, or a devastating mix of both. But she raises her hand. Gentle, but firm. Not now, David. Because there are things that need to be said. Questions that need to be answered. Wounds that need to be acknowledged before they can start to heal. But not now. Right now, Ayanna just needs to breathe. She needs to feel the weight of a victory that doesn't feel exactly like winning. The justice that doesn't bring the joy she imagined. The truth that, finally revealed, leaves only a bitter taste of everything lost along the way. She saved herself. But at what cost? David sinks onto the couch, head in his hands, shoulders slumped under the weight of a truth he didn't want, but can no longer ignore. And Ayanna stands, alone in the middle of the room, holding the phone that contains the proof of a war she won. But looking at her destroyed husband on the couch, at the closed door her mother-in-law walked through, at the uncertain future opening up ahead like a dark, unknown abyss, she can't help but wonder. Does winning always mean you've actually won? Is justice always worth the price you pay for it? She doesn't know the answer. Yet. But she knows there's no going back. That the woman she was, the one who pretended to drink the tea and collapsed on the couch, no longer exists. That Ayanna died. And the person standing here now, in this silent room, is someone new. Someone stronger, sharper, more protected, but also more alone. And this loneliness, this certainty that she did the right thing but paid dearly for it, this is the truth no one tells you about standing up for yourself. That freedom sometimes tastes like ashes. That justice sometimes feels like a hollow victory. That protecting yourself can mean breaking everything around you. Ayanna looks at the window. Outside, evening is falling. The sky tinged with orange and pink, indifferent to the human drama that unfolded in here. And she thinks about her grandmother, about the stories she used to tell, about women who refused to be destroyed, about truths that needed to be told, no matter the cost. Her grandmother would say she did the right thing, but would she also have told her it would be this hard, that winning wouldn't feel like winning? David lifts his head, eyes red, the face of someone who just lost the most important illusion of his life. "I'm sorry," he whispers. And Ayanna doesn't know if he's apologizing for not believing her before, for letting his mother go this far, for all the years he chose family loyalty over the truth, or if he's apologizing for something still to come, for a choice he still has to make, for a future they now have to build on the rubble of what was destroyed today. She doesn't answer, because she doesn't know what to say, because forgiveness doesn't come easy when you've spent years being poisoned, literally and figuratively, and no one by your side noticed. Because some wounds are too deep for a simple, "I'm sorry." Silence settles in again, and this time, neither of them tries to break it. Because there are no words for this moment, just the naked, brutal, inescapable truth, hanging between them like smoke. Margaret had left. The mask had fallen. The truth was out. And now, all that remained was to find out if a marriage could survive when the foundation it was built on turned out to be made of sand. The silence that filled the room after Margaret left was unlike any silence Ayanna had ever experienced. It wasn't peace. It wasn't relief. It was the kind of silence that exists after a bomb goes off, when the noise finally stops, but your ears are still ringing. David stood by the table, his arms hanging limp at his sides, staring blankly at the door his mother had just walked out of. Ayanna sat on the sofa, her hands still trembling slightly, the adrenaline of the confrontation still coursing through her veins. Neither of them spoke for several minutes. Then David turned slowly toward her, and Ayanna saw something in his eyes she had never seen before. Shame. He opened his mouth as if to say something, closed it, opened it again. Finally, his voice came out hoarse, broken. "I believe you." 3 days later, sitting at the dining table in their apartment, surrounded by books and plants they had carefully cultivated over the years, Ayanna and David had the conversation that should have happened a long time ago. The conversation he had avoided. The conversation she had put off because she was afraid of what it might mean for their marriage. David sat across the table, his hands cupping a mug of cold coffee he hadn't touched in over an hour. "I saw the signs, Ayanna." He spoke without looking at her. "I saw them, for years." Ayanna felt something tighten in her chest. The comments in front of my family, the comparisons to her friends' daughters, the way she always made you feel small. David finally looked up at her, and there were tears in his eyes. I saw it all, and I did nothing. Why? Ayana's voice came out calm, but there was deep pain behind it. Because it was easier. David swallowed hard. Because it was easier to believe that you were being too sensitive. That my mother was just protective. Because confronting her would mean admitting that the woman who raised me, who sacrificed so much for me, was capable of intentional cruelty. He ran his hands over his face. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Ayana. Because by choosing my comfort, by choosing not to see, I left you to face all of this alone. I failed you as a husband. Ayana remained silent for a long moment. Part of her wanted to forgive him immediately. It was that part of her that had always put peace above truth, harmony above justice. But there was another part of her now. The part that had faked fainting to protect herself. The part that had recorded the conversation as evidence. The part that had confronted Margaret with the truth in hand. That part of her knew that forgiveness without change meant nothing. I need you to understand something, David. Ayana leaned forward, her voice steady. I will no longer apologize for protecting myself. I will no longer pretend everything is okay when it isn't. And I will no longer sacrifice my dignity to keep the peace in your family. David nodded slowly. I understand. No. Ayana shook her head. I need you to do more than understand. I need you to choose. Because from now on, things are going to be different. She took a deep breath. We will not have dinner at your mother's house every Sunday anymore. Our home is our sanctuary, and if she wants to see us, it will be on our terms, on our time, when I feel ready. David opened his mouth to respond, but Ayana continued. And if she speaks ill of me, if she tries to humiliate me, if she does anything that crosses the boundaries I am setting right now, you will defend me, right then, without hesitation, or this isn't going to work. Tears were flowing freely down David's face now. I will. I promise. I will choose you, Ayana. I will choose you. Ayana felt something break inside her, not from pain, but from relief. Because finally, after 5 years, she was hearing the words she needed to hear. And even though a part of her still doubted, even though a part of her was still afraid that he would fall back into old patterns, she decided to give him a chance to prove it. Not because she was naive, but because she now knew her own worth. And if he couldn't respect that, she would have the strength to leave. 3 weeks passed. 3 weeks without contact with Margaret. 3 weeks of silence where once there were daily calls, constant messages, unannounced visits. David had tried to call her twice. Both times she had hung up on him. He had sent messages, no response. And Ayana saw the weight of it on his shoulders. She saw the way he looked at the phone sometimes, with an expression of pain and confusion. She knew that part of him still hoped his mother would call, that she would apologize, that she would acknowledge what she had done. But Margaret wasn't the kind of person who apologized. She was the kind of person who cut off contact completely when she could no longer control the narrative. And in her silence, Ayana realized something. Margaret didn't miss David. She missed the control she had over him. And now that that control had been ripped away, now that the mask had fallen and the truth was exposed, she would rather be alone than admit she was wrong. It was this realization that finally brought a kind of peace to Ayana, because she understood that there was nothing she could have done differently. There was no way to please a person whose approval was conditional on her submission. There was no winning a game where the rules were designed for her to lose, and she stopped trying. On Saturday morning, 4 weeks after the confrontation, Ayana woke up early. The apartment was quiet. David was still asleep. She dressed in silence, grabbed her car keys, and left. She drove for 40 minutes until she reached the cemetery where her grandmother was buried. The sky was overcast, but it wasn't raining. A light breeze carried the scent of wet grass and flowers. Ayana walked along the stone path until she found the simple headstone with the name she loved so much. Eleanor Maria Sterling, Grandma Eleanor. Ayana knelt in front of the grave, her fingers tracing the letters carved into the stone. For a long moment, she just remained there, in silence. Then she began to speak. "Grandma, you always told me there were people in this world who will try to make you believe you are small, that you don't deserve respect, that you should be grateful just to be in their presence." Ayana touched the bracelet on her wrist, the bracelet her grandmother had given her years ago. "You told me never to believe those people, to protect my heart, to know my worth." Tears began to stream down her face. "And for a long time, Grandma, I forgot. I let her make me feel small. I accepted crumbs of respect because I was afraid of losing my family." Ayana took a deep breath, trembling. "But then, I remembered you. I remembered your strength, the way you never bowed to anyone, even when the world tried to break you." She wiped her tears with the back of her hand. "And I did what you would have done. I protected myself. I exposed the truth. I stood up for who I am." The wind blew gently through the trees surrounding the cemetery. "It hurts, Grandma. It hurts because I wanted her to love me. I wanted to be part of his family without having to erase who I am." Ayana sobbed. "But now I understand. Some people don't know how to love. They only know how to control. And when you refuse to be controlled, they choose hate instead of changing." She touched the headstone one last time. "Thank you, Grandma, for teaching me that the truth hurts, but lies kill. That it's better to be alone and free than with someone entrapped. That true love never demands that you shrink yourself." Ayana stayed there for a few more minutes, just feeling her grandmother's presence, somehow still alive in that place. Then she stood up, brushed the dirt off her knees, and walked back to the car. But this time, she wasn't carrying the weight she had brought with her. She had left it at her grandmother's grave, and taken only the strength. When Ayana returned to the apartment, David was in the kitchen making coffee. He looked at her when she walked in and immediately realized she had been crying. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. Ayana nodded. "I am. I went to visit my grandmother." David approached her, hesitant, as if unsure if she wanted to be touched. But Ayana took a step forward and hugged him. And they stood there, in the middle of their apartment's small kitchen, surrounded by the plants they watered together every morning, by the books they read aloud to each other, by the life they were trying to build. It wasn't perfect. There was still a lot of pain, a lot of uncertainty. David still had a lot of work to do to repair the trust he had broken. And Ayana still had days where the anger and hurt returned in full force. But they were trying. This time, with honesty. This time, without masks. This time, with the truth as a foundation, even if that truth was painful. Because Ayana had learned something fundamental. That there is no point in building a relationship on lies and convenient silences. That the peace that comes from avoiding conflict isn't real peace. That love which requires you to erase yourself isn't love. And that she deserved more. She always deserved more. That night, sitting on the couch with the city lights glowing through the window, David took Ayana's hand. "My mom sent me a message today," he said calmly. Ayana felt her entire body tense up. What did she say? That she wants to talk. That she's ready to listen. Ayana was silent for a moment. "Do you believe her?" David sighed. "I don't know. Part of me wants to believe, but another part..." He shook his head. "Another part of me knows she might just be trying to find a way to regain control." Ayana nodded slowly. "And what do you want to do?" David looked at her. "I want to do what's right for us. Not for her. For us." Ayana felt something release in her chest. Because that was the answer she needed. Not a promise that everything would be okay. Not a guarantee of a happy ending. But a commitment. A choice. "So we'll wait," Ayana said calmly. "We'll give it time. And if she's truly changed, if she's really willing to respect our boundaries, maybe we can consider it. But slowly. On our terms." David squeezed her hand. "On our terms," he repeated. And for the first time in weeks, Ayana felt something she had almost forgotten how to feel. Hope, Not the naive hope that everything would be perfect, but the realistic hope that it was possible to build something true on the ruins of what had been broken. That it was possible to choose truth, even when it hurt. That it was possible to protect herself without becoming hard. That it was possible to set boundaries without feeling guilty. And that she had the strength of her grandmother running in her veins. The strength of all the women who came before her, who faced humiliation and injustice, and still refused to bend. Ayanna looked at the bracelet on her wrist, the metal already worn by time, but still glowing faintly under the lamplight. And she smiled. Because she knew now that no matter what happened, no matter if Margaret changed or not, no matter if their relationship with her was repaired or remained broken, Ayanna had found something more valuable than anyone else's approval. She had found herself. And no one could ever take that from her again. 2 months later, on a Sunday morning, Ayanna and David created a new tradition. Instead of going to Margaret's house, they made an elaborate breakfast in their apartment. Pancakes, fresh fruit, strong coffee. And they invited friends, people who truly loved them, who respected them, people who didn't demand they wear masks. The house was filled with laughter, genuine conversations, human warmth that came not from obligation, but from real connection. And when Ayanna looked around the table, seeing David smile in a way she hadn't seen in years, seeing people who truly cared about them, she realized something. She hadn't lost a family when she confronted Margaret. She had gained the freedom to build her own. A chosen family. A family based on mutual respect, honesty, and true love. And that, she realized, was more valuable than anything she could have had before. Because it was real. It was true. And it was hers. That night, after everyone had left and the apartment was quiet again, Ayanna stood on the balcony looking at the stars. David joined her, putting his arm around her shoulders. "Are you happy?" he asked softly. Ayanna paused, considering the question carefully. "I'm at peace," she replied, "and that's better than any false happiness could ever be." David pulled her closer, and together they stood there, under the night sky, knowing that the path ahead would still have challenges, that healing was not linear, that there would be difficult days, but also knowing that they now had something they never had before, the truth. And on that foundation, even if painful, even if imperfect, it was possible to build something that would last. Something real, something worthy of the name love.